Hi guys and dolls, how are you? I hope you're doing well. For those of you subscribed, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're not subscribed, join the family. It's free. And free is affordable. Okay? All right, so what I wanted to talk to you today is I don't see a lot of this being talked about aside from the overt narcissist, which is super, hey, how are you? Good morning, top of the morning to you. Would you like some coffee? I've got coffee. I've got several different kinds. Oh. That's weird, okay? And some overts are just like that all the time until you see the other side. And the other side is inevitable. It's coming. And that's the split personality from the super nice to the super evil. And then my personal experience is the ones that I've dealt with, a lot of them have a very flat personality. They don't laugh that much. They don't joke that much. They're just kind of flat. It's weird. So we go from one extreme to the other. My ex, the one I was with for 20 plus years, he's very flat. It's at the point where you get, well, let me speak for myself because I can't really speak for other people, but I got so used to the flat personality that when he laughed, it was almost jarring. Like, oh, he actually found that funny. Oh, okay. That's different. I never knew anything about narcissism back then. I knew nothing about narcissism back then. I just thought, like I said before, I just thought he was an ass. Attitude out of nowhere. Picking fights for no reason. And I just didn't understand that. I'm like, what is your fucking problem? I would just go ballistic because it made no sense for him to go that ballistic over something that was just not, it made no sense to get that excited. So they also have a tendency to be way too serious for the situation. I had a friend who was also, I knew he had problems, but I didn't know what the problems were until everything blew up at the end, and he was prone to panic attacks, and he had to have accolades at work. Everybody needed to acknowledge his project and how well he did on it, and nobody ever appreciates what I do, and nobody gives me compliments and nobody acknowledges how hard this was for me. I said, and he was complaining that his boss didn't give him accolades either. And I said, your boss gives you an accolade every time you get paid. You did a good job. Come back Monday morning. That's your thank you. That's your compliment or your whatever. Corporate doesn't work like that. Corporate America doesn't work like that, where they pull you to the side and hold your little hand and say, you did such a great job. I mean, we're not in grade school or whatever. I mean, you're not in kindergarten where you draw a picture and your teacher says, oh, wow, that's great, Bobby. I mean, come on, dude. I said, even if somebody were to give you compliments all the time, you wouldn't believe them. So you would be high for about 2 minutes and then you need more compliments. You'd be high for about 2 minutes, you need more compliments. So far as the seriousness, that doesn't match the situation. I found out later, way after we were finished, our friendship was finished, I found out that he has all the symptoms, not some, but all the symptoms of NPD and borderline personality disorder as well. They are prone to extreme reactions, hypersensitivity, get their feelings hurt if you look at them wrong. And we went to Minnesota on what do you call this? It's like an adventure. It's like a kayak adventure. It was for 4 hours. And I'm thinking, I've got chronic pain, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to be able to raise my arms tomorrow. But hey, you only live once, just go for it. Well, it wasn't a race. It wasn't a kayak race. But yet he was super serious about everything that we were doing. You can't do this like this. You can't do that like that. Now, mind you, he had no experience with kayaking. I had more experience than he did. But he's going to tell me how everything's going and, how you're supposed to kayak. And he has no clue. He's never done it before, but he knows how to do it. His mental illness has, encouraged him to know how to do it and tell other people how to do it. And he was super serious. And I said, what in the hell is wrong with you? And in front of God and everybody, because when you're on the water and y'all talk, anybody has conversation, your conversation goes across the water. So everybody hears what you're saying. So they witnessed this whole thing for 4 hours, him bitching and moaning and complaining, and I'm not doing it right, and I need to do this, and da-da-da-da, and just can't stop nitpick. To death, I put up with that for 4 hours. And I said, what the hell is wrong with you? And he said, well, we got to make sure that we do everything correctly. And I said, this isn't a competition. This isn't a race. You're supposed to kick back, relax, and enjoy yourself. Well, when someone's mentally ill, they cannot kick back and relax. They have to, they need to argue and fight like we need to breathe. Just telling you. They have to argue. They have to fight. I have to nitpick. Even if I have no experience with this, I'm going to tell you how it needs to be done. And you need to just be quiet and do it the way I tell you to do it. Really? Wrong. We even switched. I had him go in the front and I went in the back. You're supposed to paddle in when you're in the same boat, which I'll probably never do again. As far as I know, I'll never do it again unless I'm in the boat with a normal person. Person in the front of the double kayak where two people are in it. The person in the front, you follow their paddle strokes. You don't do your own thing and they do their own thing because that's not going to work and you'll be zigzagging across the water. You have to, do it at the same pace, the same, if they go on this side, you go on that side. They go on this side, you go on that side. You're basically mimicking what they're doing. And he was hyper serious and it made no sense. It made sense later when I found out that he has NPD and borderline. Then everything made sense. And the book that I read, which I'm not getting paid to promote this book at all, is called, okay. I Hate You, Don't Leave Me. That's the name of the book. And it tells you all about borderline personality disorder. And as I read it, I was just thinking, oh my God. The only thing missing is his picture. And I'm not kidding. That's the only thing missing was his freaking picture. Like, what? It was just really wild. It was just really wild. Yeah, sometimes they have a seriousness that doesn't match the situation. Also, sometimes they have inappropriate laughter when it is not only inappropriate, but it's highly disturbing and highly offensive. I don't know if y'all remember me saying this or not, but I talked about one of the demons that I used to be engaged to. We didn't work out because I don't like narcissism. It just doesn't get me going. It doesn't rev my engine. Anyway, I mentioned this in a video a while back, and we were going down the road, and apparently a semi-truck or some type of heavy-duty truck had hit a deer and basically split it in half. And it was pretty, I won't go in detail, but it was pretty graphic. Part of its body was here, and then as you go down the highway, you could see more of its body. And I was totally stunned because he laughed his ass off. He saw that and he laughed hysterically. You know how you're so stunned that you can't even respond to the person's emotions. You can't respond. So I was so shocked. I literally didn't say anything because I was just flabbergasted. So yeah, inappropriate emotions for the situation. That's not funny. He acted like Sinbad, who's a comedian. He acted like Sinbad was there in the car and he done said the funniest joke ever and he was hysterically laughing. I'm not kidding. Then you have the inappropriate emotions when, oh, I'm Native American, as I told you guys before, and I found out through a family member that we are, I've mentioned this before, Cherokee, Blackfoot, Lumbee, and Geechee. Geechee is out of South Carolina. Lumbee is out of North Carolina. And Cherokee, I'm not really sure where they're usually. Oklahoma, I don't know. Anyway, so I had the same friend who was borderline personality. I had him, didn't know he was all that. Had him do my genealogy. Well, he bragged about how he could do all his genealogy and he did all the family tree in his family and he just shows off and, squares off his chest and, he is like the expert on genealogy. Well, if you're so the expert with it, I didn't say that part, but if that's the case, then help me with my genealogy because, according to him, he's expert. He not only could not come up with anything, but when I gave him solid advice about looking for the native genealogy, this information came from a Native American. His name is, I can't remember. But it's a name that once you hear it, you know that's a native name. White Wolf, I think is his name. You don't get more native than that. So he was a friend of mine. And White Wolf said, who's super native, like I said, right? He said, he told my friend to tell me, have him, her friend, look up the genealogy for the men in the family, not the women, because a lot of the women were raped and got pregnant. So that watered down the native bloodline. So have him follow the men and trace the men in the family, which to me makes perfect sense. Doesn't make sense to a mentally ill person. That doesn't make sense at all. And so he went ballistic on me. I reported that information back to him. He went ballistic on me. He screamed, he yelled, he ranted, he raved, and I just went psycho ballistic on him. What the are you yelling at me for? This is what came from a native guy. Why are you arguing? That's not basis for you to argue. He's going to argue, honey, because he's mentally ill. So of course he's going to argue. None of y'all know what you're talking about. White Wolf, you, nobody. I'm the expert on genealogy. Nobody tells me what to do. He didn't come out and say those words, but his arguing made it crystal clear. Needless to say, I told him, forget about it. Don't trace the genealogy at all. I talked to a genealogy expert, and she and I are going to work it out. Well, that's not relevant anymore. And he was fired from doing my genealogy because you obviously cannot handle stress. And you can't handle being told how to do it the right way from an expert who is, his bloodline is 1000% native. You don't get more native than White Wolf. Just saying. So inappropriate emotions for situations that do not call for that type of overreaction. Okay. When his mother died, we went to see her in the hospital. This is borderline. Went to see the mother in the hospital because me and his mom were really close. And she wasn't doing well. So I worked in the medical field, so I know some of the symptoms that occur when you are dying. And his mom, by the time we saw her, she was in a coma. And she was doing something called Cheney-Stokes breathing. Cheney-Stokes is an abnormal breathing pattern that occurs when you're dying. Okay, so the person breathes, and then they hold their breath like they're not breathing, and then they go and they're breathing again. And this is a normal breathing pattern for when someone's dying. So because I know he can't handle stress and because he overreacts to everything, I was really concerned that he was going to end up in a psych hospital because his mom was passing away. So I knew by the Cheney-Stokes breathing that she was on her way out. And he asked me when we left the hospital and we went to his house, and I picked up my car, and he said, I want to ask you a question. And I'm like, okay. Mind you, I'm bracing myself because I don't know when he's going to flip out. Tiptoeing on eggshells is normal when you're dealing with a crazy person. He said, I want to ask you something. I said, okay. He said, is my mom dying? And I said, yeah. How do you know? Because she's exhibiting a breathing pattern called Cheney-Stokes. And it's an abnormal breathing pattern that happens when you're on your way out of here. You know, that's why she's breathing, and then you don't hear her breathing, and then, you know, she started breathing again. This is called Cheney-Stokes breathing. I don't know if they changed the name of it. That was a long time ago. It might be still called Cheney-Stokes breathing. And I braced myself because I don't know when he's going to flip out. And he did not. He didn't flip out then. He didn't flip out when she was first in the hospital, and then started stair-stepping down, and then they put her in hospice. And then we went to the funeral, and I was waiting for him to spaz, and he did not spaz. And it was alarming. It was alarming. And then, like I said, I'm still bracing myself. And let me think here. He came into a lot of money because he had a head-on collision. And he ended up in the hospital, broke his glasses and everything. And he came into a lot of money. When he came into a lot of money, because it was the other driver's fault, he bought a new vehicle because his was totaled. He bought a new house. He bought a bunch of toys. I talked about this in another video a long time ago. He bought all these things. Well, when he came into a lot of money and could pay his credit card bills off and everything, most people would be relieved. They could breathe a sigh of relief. I can not only pay my bills off, but I could buy expensive toys. And I could breathe. I could finally breathe. And, he bought himself a Nikon top-of-the-line camera and everything. He got more depressed. Inappropriate emotions for the situation. He got more and more and more and more and more depressed. I talked about this in another video a long time ago, like I said. And we were at a restaurant, and I'd asked him repeatedly, what's the problem? What's going on? Wouldn't tell me. But he's sitting in a restaurant like this. I said, I want an answer, and I want an answer now. What is the problem? He went from a termite-infested apartment to a very nice house and a new car and, everything. And that was enough for him to be depressed. And I said, what is the freaking problem? What is the problem? What is going on? And I said, you got everything you wanted. Nobody wants to have a head-on collision in order to get money. Nobody's going to sign up for that on purpose. Nobody. But it just didn't make any sense to me why he was so depressed. And he said, and I quote, the more you have to lose. What do you say to that? I said, instead of looking at it that way, you need to look at it in terms of you can breathe now. Your bills are paid. Your credit cards are paid off. You have a beautiful home, this wonderful neighborhood, clean, quiet neighborhood. You need to look at it from the aspect of, let me enjoy what I have. But when someone's mentally ill, they don't have that capability to see it the way you do, the way Billy Bob sees it, the way Mary Jane sees it, because they're mentally not on that page. They're not on that page. So they can't see it that way. They're not normal. The tools in their toolbox do not look anything like the tools in our toolbox, those of us who are non-mentally ill. So you're going to be battling with not only the mood swings out of nowhere, but you're also going to be battling with irrationality that cannot even be, that's another thing. You're trying to use all the rationale that you have in your toolbox, and everything you say none of it sinks in. You can explain it to a 3-year-old and they would understand. Baby, yeah. What happens if you get a lot of money? What would happen if you get a lot of money? I could buy a lot of toys. I could buy the truck that I want. I could buy this. I could buy that. Right. The kid's not going to go, oh, a lot of money and I could buy a lot of toys. Oh, that's bad. That's bad. Kids not going to do that. They're going to be excited. Hello. They're going to be excited. But a person who's not normal cannot have a normal response. And one of you guys is I'm sure y'all been through this. Those of you who've been on the receiving end of narc abuse, you know that everything you say, no matter how logical, bounces off their ears. Nothing you say will actually make its way into their brain and make them go, oh, yeah, I never saw it that way. That's not going to happen. All the logic in the world is never going to get through to them, bounce off their ears, and they still have a confused look on their face, and you're just going, what is it about what I said is confusing to you? I don't understand. You get a lot of money, you buy really cool things, you get your bills paid off. I don't understand why that's confusing to you. But you're talking to somebody who cannot understand logic because their brain doesn't work that way. You're not going to give them an epiphany. You're not going to wake them up. You're not going to make them go, oh, that's what you've been trying to tell me. That doesn't work with them. It just doesn't. It doesn't. And that's exasperating and frustrating. When you can go no contact, and I don't care if it's your mother, I don't care if it's your father, your uncle, your aunt, I don't care who it is. You're not obligated to keep a relationship with them. You're not. You don't have to keep a relationship with them. Cut them off. If they're toxic and they are damaging to you emotionally, damaging to you financially or any otherly, cut them loose. Do I have a relationship with my so-called family? I do not. I do not. Do I feel bad about it? I do not. Because y'all are poison. I'm not going to willingly allow poison in my life. I'm just not going to do it. And back then, I was like, my logic was, if you talk to me like you got some damn sense, we can have an adult conversation. They can't talk to you with sense because they don't have any. They're irrational. They're irrational. It doesn't work like that with them. You cannot expect them to react and respond the way you do because they don't have the same tools in their toolbox that you have. All right? All right, guys. Love you and happy Sunday and have a good day. Have a good one. Love you.